In a world obsessed with connection, accessibility has become the ultimate virtue. We pride ourselves on being reachable at any hour, answering every call, replying to every message, meeting every demand. We wear our availability like a badge of honor, proof of our kindness, our dedication, our relevance. But beneath this polished surface, a deeper truth lingers. The illusion of infinite availability is quietly eroding our souls. Carl Jung, whose insights into the psyche revealed the hidden workings of human behavior, would have immediately recognized this pattern. To be constantly available is not a sign of strength, it is a sign of disconnection from the self. It reflects an unconscious need to be needed, to be validated by others, to anchor our worth in external demands rather than inner truth. Why are we so available? The answer is complex, woven into cultural, social, and psychological threads. From childhood, many of us are conditioned to prioritize others' needs over our own. We are praised for being good, helpful, selfless, words that subtly teach us that our value lies in service, compliance, and sacrifice. We internalize the belief that to say no is selfish, that to retreat is rude, that to choose ourselves is betrayal. Society reinforces this conditioning. Technology amplifies it. Smartphones, instant messaging, social media, all of these tools create an environment where inaccessibility is seen as suspicious, unkind, or even aggressive. If you don't respond immediately, you risk judgment, alienation, or guilt. And so, like dutiful citizens of the digital age, we stay tethered, always on, always available, always eroding. But availability is not a limitless resource. Energy, attention, emotional capacity, these are finite. Every yes we offer drains a little more from the well of our being. Every moment we spend attending to others at the expense of ourselves chips away at our vitality, our creativity, our authenticity. The illusion is that we can continue indefinitely without cost. The reality is that something precious is always being sacrificed. When you are constantly available to others, you become increasingly unavailable to yourself. The quiet moments of introspection, the spaces of solitude where your deepest insights emerge, they are crowded out. The subtle whispers of your intuition, your dreams, your true desires, they are drowned by the noise of obligation. Your inner world, once rich and fertile, becomes barren, neglected, desolate. And the consequences are profound. You begin to feel a creeping sense of emptiness, a gnawing resentment that you can't quite name. You start to lose the thread of your own narrative, pulled into the dramas, demands, and expectations of others. You forget what you love, what you need, who you are. Jung understood this well. He taught that individuation, the process of becoming fully oneself, requires separation from the collective. It requires stepping back, turning inward, listening to the voice of the self rather than the chorus of the crowd. Infinite availability keeps you trapped in the collective unconscious, enslaved to the projections and expectations of those around you. It prevents you from entering the sacred space where true transformation happens. Choosing to become less available is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of radical self-respect. It is a recognition that you are not an endless resource, a public utility, a machine designed for others' convenience. It is an acknowledgement that your time, energy, and presence are sacred and must be treated as such. Setting limits, stepping back, becoming selective. These are the first brave steps toward reclaiming your life. They are not easy. They trigger guilt, fear, anxiety. They provoke resistance from others who have benefited from your constant availability. They force you to confront the parts of yourself that are addicted to approval, validation, and belonging. But they are necessary, because the truth is, you cannot become who you are meant to be if you are always available to who you used to be. You cannot listen to your soul's call if you are always answering someone else's demands. You cannot create, heal, love, or lead authentically if you are perpetually drained, distracted, and dismembered. The illusion of infinite availability tells you that being everything to everyone is noble. The reality is that it is a slow form of spiritual suicide. Carl Jung would urge you to withdraw, not in bitterness, but in reverence. Withdraw into yourself. Withdraw into your dreams, your needs, your unknown depths. Withdraw until you can hear again the faint but unbreakable thread of your own life. When you stop being infinitely available, you begin to remember yourself. You begin to honor your energy as precious. You begin to treat your time as sacred. You begin to cultivate an inner richness that no external approval can match. And from that place, grounded, whole, sovereign, you can choose your engagements consciously, not out of obligation, not out of fear, but out of authentic desire. When you stop being available to everyone, you become available to something far greater, your destiny, your calling, your truth. Everything changes when you stop scattering yourself across 1,000 tiny demands and instead gather yourself into one focused flame. Everything changes when you realize that your presence is a gift, not a duty. Everything changes, and you finally come alive. Saying yes feels good, at least at first. It brings a rush of approval, a momentary sense of belonging, a fleeting feeling that you are needed, valued, important. Every yes seems like a bridge to acceptance, a way to avoid conflict, a promise that you are good in the eyes of others. But beneath the surface, something darker begins to brew, the slow erosion of your boundaries, your energy, your sense of self. Carl Jung believed that the psyche strives toward wholeness, yet every time you say yes against your deeper truth, a small fracture appears inside you, a tiny betrayal, a subtle split between your outer behavior and your inner reality. And over time, these fractures accumulate. They turn into resentment, exhaustion, confusion. They create a gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. The psychological cost of always saying yes is massive and often invisible until it's too late. Boundaries are not walls. They are the essential structures that define where you end and another begins. They protect your emotional, mental, and physical integrity. They allow you to give freely without losing yourself. But constant yes-saying weakens these structures. Each time you override your instincts, each time you silence your discomfort, each time you agree when you long to decline, your boundaries erode a little more. Eventually, you begin to lose the ability to distinguish between your true desires and others' expectations. You become porous, invaded by external agendas. You say yes, not because you want to, but because you have forgotten how to say no. You are no longer living from your own center, you are living from other people's needs. This boundary collapse leaves you vulnerable, anxious, and disoriented. You feel used, but you don't know how to stop it. You feel invisible, but you don't know how to be seen. You feel resentful, but you suppress it to maintain the appearance of harmony. This is not kindness. This is self-abandonment. When you say yes to what you do not want, resentment festers. At first, it is subtle. A tightness in the chest, a sigh you quickly swallow, a flash of irritation you dismiss. But over time, it grows into a deep, burning anger. Why does no one see how tired I am? Why does no one appreciate how much I give? The tragic irony is that others often don't see it, because you have hidden it from them. You have presented a smiling facade, masking the cost of your compliance. Meanwhile, inside, your emotional reserves are draining. You wake up tired. You go to sleep tired. You live with a constant background hum of fatigue that no amount of sleep can fix. This exhaustion is not just physical, it is existential. It comes from carrying burdens that are not yours. It comes from constantly betraying your own needs to meet the expectations of others. It comes from living a life shaped more by obligation than by authenticity. Left unchecked, this exhaustion can lead to burnout, depression, anxiety, and a deep sense of purposelessness. The longer you say yes out of fear or obligation, the more your sense of self distorts. You become a chameleon, constantly shifting to fit the needs of whoever is in front of you. You become skilled at anticipating others' desires, smoothing conflicts, absorbing blame. But in the process, you lose touch with your own desires, your own voice, your own life. Carl Jung spoke of the persona, the social mask we wear to navigate society. A healthy persona is flexible and rooted in the true self. But when the persona becomes rigid, when it becomes the only self you show, you are no longer living authentically. You are living a lie. Always saying yes feeds this false persona. It traps you in roles: the good daughter, the loyal employee, the perfect friend, roles that may win you praise but suffocate your soul. You forget what you truly want. You stop asking yourself what you need. You lose the courage to even imagine a life beyond others' approval. And this, ultimately, is the greatest cost. You lose yourself. Behind the compulsive yes-saying often lies a deeper psychological wound, the fear of rejection, abandonment, or worthlessness. At some point in your life, you may have learned, consciously or unconsciously, that your value depends on your usefulness to others. That love must be earned through sacrifice, that belonging requires self-erasure. This belief system, once internalized, drives you to say yes even when every fiber of your being screams no. It keeps you trapped in cycles of overgiving and under-receiving. It keeps you dependent on external validation. It keeps you disconnected from your inner worth, which exists independently of what you do for others. Healing this wound requires profound inner work. It requires facing the pain of early rejections. It requires grieving the times you were unseen, unheard, unloved for who you truly were. It requires reclaiming the radical truth that you are enough, even when you say no, even when you disappoint, even when you walk away. The journey back to yourself begins with a simple, terrifying word: no. No to what drains you. No to what violates your values. No to what diminishes your spirit. At first, it feels impossible. You fear hurting others. You fear losing love. You fear being alone. But with every no spoken in truth, you rebuild a piece of your lost self. You strengthen your boundaries. You honor your energy. You reclaim your voice. Carl Jung taught that wholeness requires confronting the shadow, the disowned parts of ourselves. For many, the shadow contains anger, assertiveness, self-protection, qualities suppressed in the pursuit of approval. By learning to say no, you integrate these parts. You become less nice, but more real. You become less compliant, but more alive. And in time, you discover that the love, respect, and belonging you truly seek cannot be earned through endless sacrifice. They arise naturally when you show up as your whole, authentic self. Not everyone will accept the real you. Not everyone is meant to. But those who do, those who can meet you where you truly are, will bring a depth of connection that no amount of yes-saying could ever achieve. Withdrawal is a word that often carries negative connotations in modern culture. It is associated with weakness, retreat, defeat. But in the psychological landscape mapped by Carl Jung, withdrawal is not a failure. It is an act of profound strength and necessity. In Jung's view, true growth, healing, and individuation, the process of becoming a whole, authentic self, require periods of conscious separation from the collective noise of society. Withdrawal is not about running away from life. It is about moving toward your deeper life. It is a sacred, intentional act, a journey inward to meet the unknown parts of yourself. And it is, paradoxically, the only way to re-enter the world as a fuller, more grounded human being. At the heart of Jung's psychology lies the concept of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you truly are. It is not about becoming better in the conventional sense, richer, more successful, more admired. It is about becoming more yourself, more integrated, more aware, more whole. Individuation requires differentiation, stepping out of unconscious identification with family, culture, collective norms. It requires questioning the roles you have inherited. It requires facing the uncomfortable truths that have been buried under layers of social conditioning. And this cannot happen in the constant glare of outer demands. It can only happen in withdrawal, in the quiet spaces where you can hear your soul's faint whisper beneath the roar of the world. When you are always available to others, you are never available to this whisper. You are too busy responding to life to actually live it. Withdrawal is the necessary pause. It is the sacred silence between the notes of your existence. It is here, and only here, that the real work begins. Transformation is not an incremental adjustment of your outer behavior. It is a radical reordering of your inner world. And such a reordering cannot be done while immersed in the expectations, opinions, and projections of others. Imagine trying to sculpt a masterpiece while being constantly jostled by a crowd. Imagine trying to write a novel while strangers shout advice over your shoulder. Imagine trying to hear your own heartbeat in the middle of a stadium. This is what happens when you try to transform without withdrawal. The noise is too loud. The influence is too strong. You must create space, clear, protected space, where you can separate your authentic voice from the voices that have colonized your mind. Jung emphasized the importance of solitude, reflection, and inner work. He spent significant periods of his life in seclusion, especially at his tower at Bollingen, a retreat he built with his own hands, a sanctuary for dreams, visions, and deep psychological exploration. It was here, in the quiet, that Jung encountered the images, archetypes, and myths that would shape his life's work. It was here that he came face to face with the depths of the unconscious. Without withdrawal, there would be no Jungian psychology. Without withdrawal, there is no deep transformation for any of us. Withdrawal can be terrifying. When you step back from the noise, you also step back from the familiar sources of validation, distraction, and identity. You risk loneliness. You risk facing parts of yourself you have long avoided. You risk feeling, for a time, lost and unmoored. Many people avoid withdrawal for precisely these reasons. They would rather stay entangled in the drama of others than face the emptiness within. They would rather be needed than be free. They would rather perform a false self than meet the unknown real self waiting in the dark. But avoidance comes at a terrible cost. You remain stuck in cycles of exhaustion, resentment, and unconscious repetition. You live a second-hand life, scripted by others, hollow at the core. True courage is not found in endless action. It is found in the stillness where you confront your own soul. Withdrawal, when undertaken consciously, does not lead to isolation or despair. It leads to richness, integration, and renewal. In withdrawal, you reconnect with your forgotten dreams. You rediscover your buried longings. You reclaim the pieces of yourself you abandoned to survive. You begin to see patterns you could not see when you were too close to them. You begin to recognize which parts of your life are authentic and which are inherited, borrowed, or imposed. You learn to differentiate between genuine desire and compulsive obligation. You learn to live from the inside out, not the outside in. Withdrawal also reconnects you with the deeper forces of life, nature, archetype, myth, the eternal rhythms of creation and destruction. In the silence, you encounter something greater than yourself, what Jung called the self, the organizing center of the psyche, the image of God within. And from this encounter, you return to the world transformed, not as a puppet of collective expectations, not as a hollow performer, but as a sovereign, creative, deeply rooted human being. In today's hyper-connected world, withdrawal can seem almost impossible. How can you retreat when emails, messages, and social media clamor for your attention every moment? But withdrawal does not always require disappearing to a cabin in the woods, though that can be powerful. It can begin with small, sacred acts. Turning off your phone for a few hours each day, setting clear boundaries around your availability, spending time alone in nature, journaling your thoughts and dreams without censorship, saying no to obligations that drain you, choosing deep solitude over superficial connection. Each act of conscious withdrawal is a declaration, my life belongs to me. It is an act of devotion to your inner world. It is an act of rebellion against a culture that values production over presence, performance over authenticity. Ultimately, withdrawal is not an escape from life. It is a deeper entry into life, your life. It is the portal through which you pass from unconscious existence into conscious, vibrant being. It is the womb in which your true self gestates. It is the cocoon in which you are remade. Carl Jung knew this. He lived it. He taught it to all who would listen. You must go inward. You must risk solitude. You must leave behind the false comforts of collective approval to find the treasure buried in your own soul. And when you do, when you dare to withdraw, everything changes. You emerge not weaker, but stronger, not broken, but whole, not lost, but finally found. Choosing yourself is not only about withdrawal or saying no, it's about an even more powerful shift, becoming selective about where, how, and with whom you invest your precious life energy. Carl Jung taught that energy follows attention. Where your attention goes, your vital force flows. If you pour your attention indiscriminately into every demand, every distraction, every passing drama, you drain yourself. But when you become selective, fiercely, consciously selective, a miraculous transformation occurs. New energies awaken, energies that were always yours but lay dormant under the weight of too much noise, too much compromise, too much dispersion. Let's dive deeper into this awakening. Modern culture glorifies constant availability. Answer immediately, show up instantly, be reachable, responsive, responsible 24/7. If you're not constantly accessible, you're seen as selfish, aloof, unreliable. But here's the truth. You are not infinite. Your energy is finite. Your time is sacred. Every yes costs you something. Every response pulls from your reserves. Every interaction leaves an imprint on your psyche. When you are available to everyone and everything, you become available to nothing that truly matters. Being selective is not selfishness. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that your attention is the most valuable currency you possess, and you must spend it with great discernment. When you choose carefully what you give your energy to, something extraordinary happens. Your scattered forces gather. Your diluted spirit concentrates. Your inner fire reignites. Focus creates power. Think of sunlight passing through a magnifying glass. Diffuse light warms. Focused light burns. When your attention is spread thin across 1,000 trivialities, you feel tired, numb, uninspired. When you focus it sharply on what truly matters, your purpose, your healing, your art, your sacred relationships, you ignite a fire that can transform your entire life. Carl Jung believed that within every human being lies a source of immense psychic energy, what he sometimes referred to as libido, not just sexual energy, but life energy in its purest form. This energy seeks expression, creation, realization. But when it is trapped in false obligations, meaningless tasks, and shallow distractions, it turns against you, causing depression, anxiety, frustration, self-sabotage. Selective focus liberates this trapped energy. It channels it toward authentic goals. It awakens new possibilities. One of the most profound areas where selectivity matters is your relationships. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone is capable of meeting you at the depth you seek. Not everyone can walk with you as you grow. And that's okay. When you are indiscriminate with your relational energy, you entangle yourself in dynamics that drain, diminish, or distort you. You try to save people who don't want saving. You overgive to those who only take. You maintain connections out of guilt, fear, or habit, rather than genuine resonance. Becoming selective means choosing to surround yourself only with those who nourish your spirit, honor your boundaries, and support your growth. It means releasing relationships based on obligation and embracing those rooted in mutual respect, depth, and authenticity. It means valuing quality over quantity, depth over breadth, substance over surface. And when you do, a powerful shift happens. You stop feeling lonely even if you have fewer people around you, because you are finally surrounded by soul-aligned companions, not just placeholders. In the digital age, your attention is constantly under siege. News, social media, advertisements, endless streams of content, all competing for a piece of your mind. Most of it is noise. Most of it numbs rather than nourishes. Most of it pulls you further away from your center. Becoming selective means becoming ruthless about what you consume. It means asking yourself, does this information inspire me or exhaust me? Does it align with my values or confuse my spirit? Does it uplift my vision or cloud my clarity? Jung spoke of the unconscious being influenced by symbols, images, and archetypes. Everything you consume enters your psychic ecosystem. Everything you expose yourself to shapes your inner landscape. Guard your mind as you would guard a sacred temple. Feed it only with what strengthens your vision, sharpens your wisdom, deepens your soul. Time is the most non-renewable resource you have. Every moment spent on what does not serve your true path is a moment stolen from your destiny. Selective living demands that you become a vigilant steward of your time. It invites you to prioritize deep work over busy work, choose solitude over shallow socializing, commit to fewer but more meaningful pursuits, schedule space for rest, reflection, and renewal. Busyness is not a badge of honor. It is often a symptom of inner disconnection. Slow down. Focus. Align. Let your schedule reflect your soul, not society's expectations. As you refine your focus, guard your boundaries, and choose with consciousness, new energies rise within you. Creative energy. Your muse awakens. Ideas flow. Inspiration strikes. Vital energy. Your body feels stronger. Your spirit feels lighter. Emotional energy. You experience deeper joy, richer love, truer gratitude. Spiritual energy. You feel connected to something larger, wiser, eternal. You are no longer dissipated. You are concentrated. You are no longer living reactively. You are creating intentionally. You are no longer driven by fear of missing out. You are anchored by a deeper yes, the yes to your own life. Becoming selective is not a one-time decision. It is a daily, even moment-to-moment practice. It requires courage to disappoint others, to walk away from noise, to stand firm in your values. It requires the humility to let go of what no longer serves you, even if it once defined you. It requires the faith to trust that by choosing yourself, you are not betraying others. You are blessing them too, by modeling what authentic living looks like. As Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And to become who you truly are, you must choose carefully. You must live intentionally. You must be fiercely, beautifully selective. Then can the sleeping energies within you awaken. Then can you rise into the fullness of your being. Then can you finally, gloriously live your own life. When you choose yourself, when you withdraw from noise, when you become selective with your energy, there is a price to pay. And that price is often loneliness. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He knew that the path of individuation, the journey toward becoming who you truly are, inevitably separates you from the crowd. You no longer fit neatly into inherited roles, collective expectations, or shallow relationships. You are no longer easily understood, categorized, or controlled. And so, for a time, you walk alone. But what seems like a punishment at first is, in truth, a sacred initiation, because loneliness, when embraced consciously, becomes a portal to unexpected riches of the soul. Let's explore this paradox, how loneliness, rather than a sign of failure, becomes a sign of profound transformation. Authenticity demands that you shed the masks you once wore to belong. It demands that you tell the truth, even when it is unpopular. It demands that you honor your own path, even when it diverges from the paths of those you love. This is not easy. Humans are social creatures. We are wired for connection, for acceptance, for belonging. Our survival once depended on it. And so, going against the grain can trigger primal fears. What if I end up alone forever? What if no one understands me? What if I am wrong? These fears are real. They must be faced, not bypassed. Choosing yourself means accepting the loneliness that may come when you no longer betray yourself to avoid it. It means having the courage to say, even if I stand alone, I will stand true. Not all loneliness is the same. There is the loneliness of exile, being cast out, misunderstood, rejected. There is the loneliness of withdrawal, choosing to step back, to separate, to find your center. And there is the loneliness of transformation, being between worlds, no longer who you were, not yet who you are becoming. Each type of loneliness brings different challenges. Each requires different medicines. But all forms of loneliness, when met with consciousness, can serve your growth. They strip away the false comforts. They force you to turn inward. They teach you how to be with yourself. Jung believed that facing loneliness was a key part of psychological development. He saw it as a rite of passage into deeper selfhood. It is in loneliness that you meet your shadow, your fears, your forgotten dreams, your hidden strengths. It is in loneliness that the dialogue between ego and soul begins. Though painful, loneliness contains hidden gifts. Self-knowledge. Without the constant mirror of others' expectations, you can finally see yourself clearly. Inner stability. You learn to anchor yourself from within rather than relying on external validation. Spiritual connection. In the silence of loneliness, you often feel closest to the divine, to the mystery of existence itself. Creative power. Solitude frees your imagination, your intuition, your deepest creative forces. Many of the world's greatest artists, thinkers, and spiritual leaders embraced periods of profound loneliness. They understood that solitude fertilizes genius. They knew that the soul needs silence to sing. Jung himself spent long periods alone at Bollingen Tower, carving stones, recording dreams, immersing himself in the rhythms of nature. He wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." True loneliness, then, is not about physical isolation. It is about existential depth. It is the recognition that most of the world operates on surfaces, while you are seeking the depths. And that is not a flaw. It is a calling. When you begin to grow, evolve, awaken, you naturally outgrow certain relationships, environments, and identities. This shedding can feel brutal. It can feel like losing your family, your tribe, your world. But it is a necessary pruning. The loneliness you feel is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It is a sign that something is going right. You are no longer willing to settle for shallow connections. You are no longer willing to dim your light to be accepted. You are no longer willing to betray your soul for the sake of fitting in. You are becoming who you were meant to be. And in doing so, you must pass through the sacred desert of loneliness. It is here, in this barren place, that your true companions, human and divine, will find you. The good news is this: loneliness is not a life sentence. It is a bridge. As you align more deeply with your true self, you begin to attract others who resonate with your frequency. These are not the people you forced yourself to fit with in the past. These are the people who recognize you because they, too, have walked the lonely road. Your true tribe is not found through desperate searching. It is found through authentic living. As you show up as your real self, you send out a beacon. Those meant for you will see it. It may take time. It may be few rather than many. But the connections you form on the other side of loneliness are richer, deeper, and more enduring than anything you knew before. Ultimately, loneliness brings you back to yourself. In the absence of constant social input, you reconnect with your inner world. You remember who you are when no one is watching. You cultivate a relationship with your soul. This inner relationship becomes the foundation for everything else. You no longer seek others to complete you. You no longer fear solitude. You carry your own home within you. This is the great paradox. The more at home you become with yourself, the less lonely you feel, even when alone. You discover that you are never truly alone. You are always accompanied by the depth of your own being, by the vastness of life, by the mystery that breathes through all things. Carl Jung captured this beautifully when he said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But before you can truly meet another, truly transform through relationship, you must first meet yourself. And sometimes, loneliness is the necessary crucible for that sacred meeting. When you finally choose yourself above all else, not out of selfishness, but out of deep, reverent love for the truth of who you are, everything changes. It is not only the external world that rearranges itself. It is not only relationships, opportunities, energies that shift. You yourself are reborn. You step into a new life, a life that feels fundamentally different from the one you left behind, a life marked by empowerment, groundedness, and freedom. This final chapter is about what that new life looks like. It is about the rewards that await when you dare to cross the desert, endure the loneliness, awaken your sleeping energies, and choose yourself again and again. It is about the fullness of living aligned with your soul. In your old life, you likely outsourced your power. You sought approval, validation, permission. You allowed external forces, family, culture, peers, to dictate your choices. But in your new life, you live from inner authority. You trust your own perceptions, your own intuitions, your own wisdom. You consult your heart before you consult the crowd. You realize that no one outside of you knows your path better than the voice within you. This inner authority does not make you rigid or arrogant. On the contrary, it makes you flexible, open, humble, because you are anchored within, not tossed about by every passing trend, opinion, or fear. You become a sovereign being. You make decisions from strength, not insecurity. You set boundaries with clarity, not guilt. You pursue dreams with courage, not apology. You no longer ask, "Am I allowed?" You declare, "I am choosing." This is true empowerment, not domination over others, but mastery of oneself. Empowerment without grounding is dangerous. It can lead to ego inflation, impulsiveness, instability. But when you are truly grounded, rooted in the deep soil of your authentic self, your empowerment becomes steady, enduring, benevolent. In your new life, you are not easily shaken. You are no longer seduced by every glittering distraction, nor devastated by every storm. You know who you are. You know what matters. You know what you are building. You are connected to your body, your breath, your instincts. You are attuned to the rhythms of nature, the seasons of life, the tides of the soul. You live cyclically, not linearly. You honor rest as much as action. You value being as much as doing. Groundedness gives you resilience. It allows you to bend without breaking, to endure without losing faith, to evolve without losing your core. It allows you to move through the world with quiet confidence and deep presence. Perhaps the most extraordinary gift of choosing yourself is freedom, not the shallow freedom promised by consumer culture, the freedom to buy, to consume, to escape, but the deep, soul-level freedom that comes from being unshackled from fear. You are no longer ruled by the fear of rejection because you have accepted yourself. You are no longer ruled by the fear of scarcity because you trust in your creative power. You are no longer ruled by the fear of loneliness because you are at home within yourself. You live authentically, speak truthfully, love fiercely. You take risks, not recklessly, but with faith in your own resilience. You pursue visions, not to impress others, but to honor the call within. You are free to fail and to rise again. You are free to succeed and to enjoy it fully. You are free to live, truly live, without apology. This freedom is priceless. It cannot be given to you. It must be claimed by choosing yourself again and again, even when it is hard, even when it is lonely. It is the ultimate reward of the journey. In your new life, miracles become commonplace, not because life becomes perfect, but because you are awake to its beauty. You notice synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that guide you. You feel connected to a larger intelligence, call it life, God, the universe. You experience moments of deep gratitude for simple things, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the laughter of a true friend, the quiet peace of an evening spent alone, content. You find that your outer world reflects your inner transformation. New opportunities arise that align with your soul. New relationships form that nourish your spirit. New adventures unfold that expand your horizons. You no longer chase life. You dance with it. And this dance is joyful, wild, sacred. Choosing yourself is not a finish line. It is the beginning of a lifelong journey. There will still be challenges. There will still be moments of doubt, fear, temptation. But now, you have a foundation. You have tools. You have yourself. You know how to return to your center when you are thrown off balance. You know how to listen to your soul when the world becomes noisy. You know how to trust your path even when it is lonely. You are no longer lost. You are on a sacred pilgrimage, the journey of becoming fully, fiercely, gloriously yourself. And this journey is the greatest adventure you will ever undertake. Carl Jung's work was not about telling people how to live. It was about guiding them to discover the unique blueprint within themselves. He understood that true healing, true fulfillment, true awakening comes not from following external rules, but from listening to the inner voice. He called it individuation, the process by which a person becomes an indivisible whole. By choosing yourself, by walking the path of individuation, you honor Jung's deepest wisdom. You become not a copy, not a role, not a product of conditioning, but an original soul, radiant in your authenticity. As Jung said, the world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you. Now, you know. You are not here to be told who you are. You are here to remember, to embody, to live it fully, unapologetically, joyfully. This is your new life. Empowered, grounded, free. Welcome home.